This is Jerod Lakefield, a novel by Don Fensler, part number 39. Jerod Lakefield versus Cole Bryan. The game against the Los Angeles Leopards and Cole Bryan was on November 17th. It was on a Sunday, a nationally televised game. Millions would see the San Diego Clappers, a very rare occurrence as they have only been in important games a handful of times, handful as in 0 to nothing times. Most of the people watching, of course, were watching the Leopards and Cole Bryan. A few had heard of Jerod Lakefield and his 28-point scoring average, but only the real NBA experts, and they also heard the fact he came from tiny St. Cloud State and was causing a minor buzz, a very minor buzz, like an anemic midget bee in the fucking Grand Canyon. Little did anyone know, as the Los Angeles Leopards and San Diego Clappers warmed up so lackadaisically that November 17 would become an important day in basketball history and human history. Jerod Lakefield was going through his usual bizarre warm-up where he was playing alone but acting like a phantom defender was covering him. He would fake out his ghost to the left and then to the right and shoot the ball straight in. Sometimes he would get one of our ball boys to stand in front of him with his hands up, not moving. The ball boys always would feel foolish and embarrassed and would laugh nervously, but they did it because it was their job. And they had come to worship Jerod Lakefield, even though they had just met him and really hardly knew him like the rest of us. Nobody really knew Jerod Lakefield. They did it because it was Jerod Lakefield had asked them to do it. He would ask them if they would do it and thank them afterwards, not as the superstar he was talking to a lowly ball boy, but as an equal. The ball boys worshipped Jerod Lakefield. They had seen our first 5 games and they knew they were part of something special. They knew he was a special basketball player. But 2 seconds with Jerod Lakefield and you knew you were with part of something special that was bigger than just basketball. Once I spotted Cole Bryan looking over at Jerod. Cole smiled and shook his head as he saw the spectacle of Jerod playing against his ghost or the Clappers' 5'5" ball boy. I saw Jerod look over one time. He looked at Cole Bryan for a long time. His eyes were calm, but he looked like it could melt Cole Bryan into the floor like it was an ice cube in downtown New Delhi, China. It starts. The game started. I wasn't sure what the matchup would be. Jennifer was next to me. We were nervous. We had been here so many times watching Jerod Lakefield, but we were nervous. Jerod was on Cole Bryan. They shook hands before the game. Jerod looked at Cole, not smiling but respectfully. But Cole did not look at Jerod Lakefield. He shook his hand, but did not lower himself to look at Jerod Lakefield, the rookie. The fucking bastard. The game started and Cole got the ball and dribbled down and shot from 15 feet out, but missed. But they got the rebound and scored anyway. The San Diego Clappers brought the ball down and lost it. Jerod Lakefield shot back on defense and prevented a fast break dunk. Jerod exploding with a superhuman burst of speed to break up the play. He seemed so slow and lackadaisical, then suddenly he turns on the fucking turbojets, and it is unbelievable, fucking superhuman how he can move. But after the initial superhumanness in the first few minutes, Jerod Lakefield turned human again. In fact, he seemed to disappear. After the ball went back and forth several times, we were down by 6. The ball went back and forth some more, and we were down by 10. It was into the first quarter, and we, the San Diego Clappers, were fucking disturbingly behind. The score was 32-22. Jerod was nothing on offense, and he did nothing on defense really either. He had no points, and Cole Bryan had 9. Jerod was letting him go now. If Cole had hit all his shots, he would have 20 by now. Thank God Cole Bryant seemed to be off his shot a little, missing some he easily could have made. Something seemed wrong. It was like the Los Angeles Leopards were playing 5-on-4 all of a sudden. Jerod seemed like a spectator, not really fucking in the game at all, over there by the scoreboard the way he liked to be. But this disappearing act, my heart of hearts, meant nothing to me now. It used to mean something, get me very nervous, but now it meant fucking nothing. So I tried to tell myself now. I knew Jerod Lakefield too well to be seriously worried. I knew Jerod Lakefield was playing his game, watching, waiting, figuring out how to win. I had finally, after all these months, figured out Jerod Lakefield, or so I felt. And ring up like St. Lucifer's dragon, quietly but never ending, was that Jerod Lakefield was much, much more than a basketball player. But in his human form, he was trying to figure out the best way to win against this team that was far superior to the Clappers. The Los Angeles Leopards were far superior to the Clappers, of course, except for Jerod Lakefield. The frenzy was going to start. I wasn't sure when or how, but now I knew it would start. I looked at Jennifer, and we nodded and smiled. It was a significant conspiratorial look. We both knew something no one else knew. We knew Jerod Lakefield. The second quarter started and we had the ball. Jerod went into his home just across the half-court line near the scorer's table. Our point guard passed him the ball, and everything seemed to stop. There was this moment, this incredible moment, when all time and all movement stopped. I wanted to say something to Jennifer, but we were also frozen in that moment. Cole Bryant was frozen. The crowd was silent. Jerod Lakefield held the ball. It was like a conductor with a baton who had just silenced the orchestra and crowd. He did not move. His orchestra, the entire earth, did not move, could not move. And then Jerod moved. He cocked the ball to the right to shoot, as if shooting a free throw, and the world was silent. But then the ball arched towards the basket. The whole world gazed in wonder. The whole world knew, and no one doubted, that it would go in. And when it did, when it swished through the net, so ever softly, the world woke up and exploded. Waking up. Cole Bryant awoke like a man who had just been slapped in the face by a fucking nuclear bomb or by the hand of God. And then Jerod Lakefield rushed forward, and the Leopard player, who gives a fuck who it was, I don't know which Leopard player it was suddenly in a daze and tossed the ball in absent-mindedly, and Jerod knocked it to the floor. It rolled dumbly around and then was at Cole Bryant's feet. It just lay there dead, motionless at his feet. And then the nightmare Cole had been having for months came to pass. The ball was at Cole's feet. He looked at it. He wanted to do something. He knew he had to do something. He was supposed to pick up the ball. You saw in his eyes that he knew he was supposed to pick up the ball. But he could not move. He was frozen, petrified, fucking paralyzed and tied up in tiny knots, and he didn't know why. He wanted to move, but he could not. He wanted to be Cole Bryant, but there was no Cole Bryant on this court anymore. This all took place in a split second. Then the ball was gone, and then the ball was bouncing off the backboard in an odd but determined way, and then it was going through the basket, and Jerod Lakefield was under the basket, moving away from the basket, getting ready to defend, but the game had stopped. There was no one to defend. There was nothing to defend. Jerod Lakefield had conquered everyone and everything in that split second. Cole Bryant turned and ran backwards toward the basket. He didn't want to think about what had just happened. He shook his head. He wanted to pretend like everything was okay, but everyone knew things in a split second had gone bad, really bad for Cole Bryant. In fact, Cole Bryant no longer existed. There was a useless mass of flesh and bone still wandering about on the court, but there was no longer any Cole Bryant.